In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your CV axles on this Hyundai Sonata. They go from the transmission to the wheel hub. Let's get started. Use a 21mm socket, remove all 5 lug nuts, and then we can pull the wheel off. Just a little note, if yours has hubcaps, when you take the lug nuts off, the hubcap is going to want to come off, so take that off first, then the wheel. Let's remove the axle nut. The cotter pin locks it in, so we're going to take some cutters, straighten this out, punch it through. Cutters are useful because they can grab onto it like this and pull it straight out. Discard the cotter pin. You don't want to reuse these. Now take a 32mm socket, loosen up the axle nut. If you don't have an impact to do this, what you can do is use a breaker bar and a pry bar right between the lug studs. That's going to prevent the hub from spinning as you loosen it with the breaker bar. Take that off. There's also a lock washer behind here. Take this off as well. Now make sure the axle pushes through the hub. If it's seized, take a punch and a hammer and punch it right in the center. The vibrations are going to break it free. Mine moves, so I'm good to go. Use a 17mm socket and take both bolts off. Knuckle went up, perfect. Now that we have the ball joint disconnected and the knuckle can float around, here's a little trick so you don't have to disconnect the tie rod with the key in the ignition so that the steering lock can be unlocked. Just turn the steering wheel all the way to the opposite side that you're working on. At this point, push the axle through and pull on the knuckle, and it pops right out. Where the axle goes into the transmission, take a pry bar and pry on it right down at the bottom and pop it right out. Have a collection bucket ready to catch the fluid that's going to drip out. And there it is. Take the new CV axle and slide it back through the bottom of the strut. Guide it so that the boots don't get torn up if they hit something. And guide it back into the transmission. Turn it so the splines can line up, and then use its own weight to push it in. Once you're sure the axle has seated in the transmission, check it from underneath. This is what you want to see. You want that inner CV joint to be pressed right up against that transmission or the axle seal, really. You don't want any space right in between there. That would not be fully seated. On the splines of this CV axle, put a little bit of anti-seize right here. That way it doesn't seize in the hub in the future. You don't need a lot, just a thin layer will do the trick. Try to avoid getting it on the threads. Those should stay nice and dry, but cover all the splines. Now you want to take the axle and slide it through the knuckle. Spin the hub to seat the splines. And there we go, pokes right through. From the other side, I'm going to turn the steering wheel back to the straight position so everything else can line up. Pull the knuckle down and start on the 2 bolts onto the ball joint. Be careful not to cross-thread them here. It is very easy to do so, and if you do, you're looking at either drilling and tapping or replacing the whole knuckle. Snug these 2 up. 67 foot-pounds on both of these. Let's install the washer that goes over the axle and then the axle nut. Thread this on. Use a 32mm socket, bottom it out and snug it. Now let's torque this to 207 foot-pounds. To prevent the hub from spinning, I'm going to use a pry bar, put it right between the lug studs. Once again, 207 foot-pounds. That's it right there. This being a castle nut, you should tighten in order to line up the next slot if your slot doesn't line up. Now the axle does have 2 holes. This one is very close to being lined up. So I definitely can't tighten it any more than this. It is very tight already. So I'm going to slide the cotter pin in, and I know that it's not going to just slide right in, but I'm going to help it along with a hammer especially now that it's in the way of this lug stud. There we go, and that fits through, and I can lock in the axle nut. And of course, bend the cotter pin over to fully lock it in place. Let's get the wheel back on. If your wheels had hubcaps, you're going to want to put them on now because the lug nuts go over and clamp everything together. Just make sure you line up the cutout for the valve stem with the valve stem, of course, otherwise it won't fit on properly. And now start in all 5 of your lug nuts. We'll bottom them out and torque them to 79 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to seat the wheel properly. Once again, 79 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Double check them. Job is done, take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.